God is a very stable God. Whatever God starts, he finishes. He is the author and finisher. Now notice, God is only obligated to finish what he authors. Now he's not obligated to finish what you start. He's obligated to finish what he authored, what he ordained, what he prophetically declared. He's only obligated to finish what he has started or set in motion. See, understand this process. Your dreams determine your goals. Dreams determine goals. Dreams determine goals. A goal is nothing but a dream with a deadline. Dreams determine your goals. Your goals map out a plan of action. Goals map out a plan of action. And then your actions create results. Actions create results. And then results produce success. Now sometimes people start wondering then, why don't I have success? Well, they had the dream, but they didn't get to the success. Because they never took their dream and broke it down to goals, which gave them a plan of action, and they never followed their plan of action to give them results, and they never did follow the results so that they got success. Remember now, life itself is a process. It's not something, life is not an event. Life is a process. Change is not an event. Change is a process. So that when a person gets saved, I know that we would like to think that old things are passed away and all things are become new, and spiritually that is true. But how many of you all know that when people get saved, that they still have some traces of the smoke from the hellfire that they just came out of? And even though God has redeemed their spirit, their clothes still stink. And sometimes they still have traces of the language out of the environment that God brought them. And he's got to work on some things. So their salvation is really a process. I believe that there is an instantaneous work that happens in the spirit with salvation, but I also believe that the process of sanctification in salvation is a process. Sanctification is like riding a bike. Either you keep pedaling or you fall. So it is a process. Life itself is a process. Now I want you to follow with me the process of life. Life goes, now it doesn't begin at birth, does it? No, life begins at conception. It is a process. Remember, it's a process. And then conception matures into gestation, where a person, the baby goes through a gestational period that we call pregnancy. And then pregnancy, the process of the gestation, culminates in birth. And then from birth, we begin to experience growth, development, and reproduction. And then maturity, and finally death. And that becomes the progression of the cycle of life. There is a cycle there, but there is a progression that happens from the moment of the conception through the gestational period, through the actual birthing, through the growing, through the developing, through the reproducing, through the maturity, through to the point of death, where the cycle, and then we're born into another life. And death is not an end, it is the beginning into another life. Death is simply your graduation ceremony, where you'll get your real cap and gown. I mean, a cross, no cross and no crown. That's your new cap. And then you're going to get a robe of righteousness. Is that so? So it's a graduation ceremony where you are promoted to heaven. That is not a demotion. That is a promotion. It's a promotion. So that is a process of life. I love what George Washington Carver said, how he aptly stated. He said, how far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant of the weak and the strong. He said, because someday in life you will have been all of these. Isn't it something that at some point in your life you will have been young At some point in your life, you will become old. And at some point, you would have been striving. And at some point, you would have been weak. And at some point, you would have been strong. And you have to be careful how you treat people at any one of those points, because at some point in your life, you will have been all of them. At some point in your life, you would have been broke, busted, and disgusted. At some point in your life, you would have been discouraged. At some point in your life, you might have had a suicidal thought to cross you. So you have to be careful. But remember, whenever you even see a beautiful picture in living color, it is the result of a process. It's not just instant, it is a process. And when you do pictures the old-fashioned way, there is a negative that is exposed to light. Isn't it something how God will bring your negative out to the light? And you take it into a dark room and exposed to chemicals. It has a chemical bath and then is hung out to dry before a beautiful picture is ever seen. And then people see the beautiful picture on your table, on your nightstand, on your dresser, on your desk, and they remark about the beauty of the picture, but they don't even understand the process, that photochemical process that it goes through in order to produce the picture. What is the process? There is a process of life. And so the process of life is a progression that is constantly moving you forward toward your purpose and your destiny. Because the process of life involves growth. It involves growth. And all growth involves change. All growth involves change. Now, you ever notice how the Bible talks about how God gives seed to the sower and bread to the eater? Did you ever notice that God never gives us bread? He gives seed. Because bread is made as a result of process. He gives seed to the sower, seed to the sower, seed to the sower, and he gives bread to the eater. You see, now, please don't understand that he's just think that he's talking about two different people. The sower becomes the eater. He's sowing so that he can eat. He's sowing so that he can reap. He gives seed to the sower, and when the sower takes the seed, breaks up the fallow ground, sows the seed, waters the seed, and God gives the increase of the seed, and there comes a harvest. Now he then is able to have bread, but bread is not just an automatic thing. You don't reap bread out of the field. You reap wheat, and wheat has to be then separated. You separate the wheat from the tares. There's a separating process. Here again, you can't even have bread without going through process. You are going to have to go through process. Please let me help you to understand something very, very clearly. That if your life is ever going to go from prophecy to fulfillment or from a dream to reality, you must go through a sifting process. There's going to be a separating where you will go through a period in your life where God is going to start pulling wicked folks out of your life, good-for-nothing people out of your life, distracting folks out of your life. He's going to separate vices, bad habits out of your life because he's taking you through a process. Sanctification is a process. It's a process. And so there's going to be a sifting thing. He's going to have to change some of your ideology. In order for you to have a peaceful marriage, God has got to change the way that you think toward women. He's got to change the way that you think toward men. He's got to change your idea about roles and responsibilities and this and that and the other. If you're going to have a peace, God's going to have to take you through that sifting process.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C.Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.